2021 council meeting to order at 3:22. Machines open for roll call. Let the record show all 9 council members are present. Ms. Morcott?
Yes, we're going to 9I. A resolution authorizing Plaquemines Parish government's president to enter into transactions with the LA DOTD for sale of property rights and grant of servitude for state project number H.004791, FAP number H.004791, LA 23, Bell Chase Bridge and Tunnel Route, LA.
It was L.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you said I. My apologies. A resolution authorizing and directing the parish president or his designee to do all things necessary and proper to provide assistance to the Plaquemines Parish Heritage and Seafood Festival and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Black? Mr. Black off, I'll second. Mr. Black?
He was.
That's all right, no worries. Thank you. Thank you for moving us up, Mr. Kainovich. I know Ms. Donda's in the audience here. This is basically what we do every year for the seafood and orange festivals. It provides us provisions under the Constitution to let them utilize our facilities. I think this year there's no festival, it's just going to be the pageant, correct? All right, thank you. So it's just for, I think, a one evening use of the multi-purpose center for the pageant. That's all.
Any questions from the council?
I have a question.
Yes, Mr. Bartholomew.
Fees involved in that? They paid any fees for the building?
Mr. Black?
Yeah, no. We go with this every year, but basically, basically, the Constitution of Louisiana provides parishes the ability to provide in-service or in-kind donations for use of facilities, et cetera, up to a maximum of $50,000 a year. It allows the governments to pretty much donate that for fairs and festivals. That's in the Constitution and state law. What the council did, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, I authored legislation to seal that up on the parish ordinance side, where we have stipulations if you meet certain criteria, that the parish government is allowed to be able to provide that to fairs and festivals. And we just do this as a housekeeping rule measure, granting the Plaquemines Parish government, represented by the administration, to sign off on a CEA to protect us from any liabilities. Is that correct, Mr. Garrett?
You have fairs and
Hold on.
festivals that serve essentially to promote the area, and so that's why it's not really considered a true donation, because in fact the parish gets something out of it. So,
Mr. Bartholomew, you finished?
Yes, I have problems with that because in legislation that was adopted by this body, that everyone has to pay, nonprofit as well, churches as well. Everybody have to pay rental of the building. So how can we circumvent our Constitution and being discriminatory at certain aspects? If we're going to do it for one, we need to do it for all organizations that supports the people of Plaquemines Parish. Give them the opportunity to come under that umbrella, not at a discretionary will. And that was passed on by this board, this council. It was introduced. All people pay. All nonprofit pays. That's all
Ms. Newberry?
I can't vote for that like that.
Yeah, my question is, now that it's enclosed, so the cost of utilities is definitely going to be up. Is it necessary for that festival to be inside? I mean, that's my question. Can we,
Mr. Black?
because it's not an open building anymore?
They only having the selection of the queen, and that's it, like a pageant.
Oh, okay. So it's not like the It's going to be inside too, strictly outside?
Am I on?
Yeah, you
I
on?
was just asking.
Yeah, I mean, Ms. Kotovich is right. They're not having the actual festival. They're just doing the pageant
Oh, okay.
for one evening event, which is usually in Building 600, I believe. But this year it's going to be in the multipurpose building. So no, they're not going to have the festival. If they want to have the festival, it would be outside.
Back to Mr. Bartholomew's comment, do we have something on the books where we charge in one festival and not the other? I'm just a little confused. Can
ahead.
somebody comment on that?
I'm not dealing with this.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
but what I said, Councilman, is that all nonprofits was excused from paying rent, but we passed legislation to incorporate that everyone pays, no exception. That's what I mean, that's what I said.
Mr. Beers, do you know anything about that?
And it's in the book.
There's a difference between just run-of-the-mill nonprofits and then fairs and festivals that promote and showcase the parish and its natural resources, et cetera. And so the Constitution and the state statutes allow the parish government to enter into cooperative endeavor agreements with nonprofits who put on fairs and festivals. And, we've done that in the past, and it's totally legal. What we do in order to not violate, the illegal donation clause is we make the fairs and festivals show us how much they spent on advertising, how much attendance they had, and roughly how many people, they bring into the parish who are going to stop at the gas stations, who are going to learn about Plaquemines Parish, who are going to et cetera. And so we try to keep a record of the benefits that are bestowed on the parish by these fairs and festivals. And so, at the end of the day, if you're ever audited, you can say, yes, we entered into a CEA with this agreement, but they were promoting the parish, which is something that otherwise would not have been done. Or if the parish had done it on its own, it would have expended lots more money. And so this is a provision that allows the parishes to do that with these nonprofits. Now, Mr. Bartholomew's talking about a church group or something like that. Once again, I think there would have to be a demonstrated, there would have to be something demonstrating that it's bringing in people to the parish, it's showcasing, what the parish has to offer, et cetera, et cetera. It's not just because a nonprofit happened to exist in the parish and want to have a party. It's not limited to just Orange Festival and the Seafood Festival. There are other nonprofits who put on festivals that it could also be applicable to, but just your run-of-the-mill nonprofit, Sunday party, wouldn't qualify under the statutes.
Thank you, Mr. Beers.
Mr. Alborough?
Just one thing to add to what Mr. Beer stated. We do have two former Queen moms in the audience, and they both work, Ms. Kognovich. They work tirelessly all year long, traveling the state to all the other fairs and festivals, also promoting the parish. That value alone, to me, is worth a one-evening rental of a multi-purpose center.
And if I'm not mistaken, the Seafood Festival donates money back to other nonprofits in the parish.
Correct.
Mr. Bartholomew?
The question, I guess, is concerned, did we not pass legislation at this table excluding everyone to be exempt from the rentals of our public buildings? Did we not do that? Mr. Bureau, did we not do that in that context?
You're correct. There was
Okay.
an ordinance passed that applied to all, but nothing in those ordinances prohibit the government from entering into cooperative endeavor agreements with these nonprofits if the council so deems it wants to use its authority pursuant to the ordinances previously adopted and the state statutes available to it.
So that means that ordinance becomes null and void once we interpret that we want to do specific issues reference to that ordinance that was passed. So we overriding that ordinance. Doesn't that mean everyone would have the opportunity to come before the parish or the council requesting the use of the buildings under the nonprofits? Because you got to understand, people that sponsor activities nonprofit are only doing it to benefit certain the people. Certain people need assistance, they put things on to benefit it. They benefit children with the organization. They do all kinds of things to benefit people in the parish itself. So that's my problem I'm having with it. I don't have a problem giving to anybody. I really don't. But when we can circumvent the law that has been passed by this council for certain aspects or certain groups, then I have issues with that. Then we need to extend it out to everyone. Now, if the issue is that anyone who would like to have the fees waived, they have to go petition the administration. And then the administration bring the information before the council. The council approve it or deny it.
Anyone, and what else at the council? Administration, the audience? Machine's open. And it passes 8-0, 8-1, sorry.
Item number 2, there is no executive session, and there are no proclamations. Item number 4, status report by the parish president.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, council. Just go kind of quick update. The COVID numbers as of April 15th is 1,833 confirmed cases. There are 26 deaths that are accumulated through 3/31, and our positive rate went up to 3.7. The week before, it was at 1.9, our lowest rate ever. So it went up 1.125 of a point. So we're still offering vaccines. The Moderna vaccine are available to the public at the following locations by appointment only. Plaquemines Parish Health Department, Delta Drugs, and Plaquemines Medical Center. So you can call those facilities and set up your appointment. There's registration from T-ball, softball, and baseball still going on. Registration has started now till April 23rd, which is, I guess, tomorrow. Late registration will be the 26th through the 30th. And you can register in person at the following recreation office locations, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Bell Chase office, the Day Van office, or the Beerus office. You also may register online. Please join us in the Plaquemines Parish Recreation Department on Saturday, May 8th at 2 p.m. to celebrate Plaquemines Parish Day at New Orleans Baseball. It's at UNO, University of New Orleans. Registration forms can be found on the parish website. And what a beautiful day to celebrate Earth Day. Today is Earth Day, so I wanted to take a moment to celebrate the beautiful place that we live in and all things that are provided with us. So as we look for a successful 2021, we look to doing our part in ensuring proper cleanup of our beautiful parish. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions from the council? Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes, Mr. President, would you please, at the next council meeting, give us an update, information on the quad that's supposedly being built in Bell Chase by the complex on Abad Drive, because I didn't know anything about it. I just heard it in the wind. And could you give us an update at the next meeting? Thank you, sir.
Mr. Bartholomew, if there's a meeting on the 14th, I will not be here. That's the police jury convention, so I'll give it the next one. Okay, so, huh? Oh, okay.
Mr. Blank?
But I'll just telling you, I will not be here. Okay. Okay.
Kirk, will,
Okay, I just want, all righty, thank you.
I'll just let everybody know the next meeting will be canceled.
I will be out of town, huh? I think some of you guys will be, too.
Kirk, will there be a Plaquemines Day at the legislature?
We generally, Richie, do it at the end of April. I doubt that they are allowing us to do anything on the grounds. It does take preparation, so I would say no this year. But we enjoy doing that. It's just, it takes a lot of work put into it, and I don't even know if they're allowing us to gather like that.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else? Ms. Marcotte?
3A, update by charter directors.
Ms. Newberry?
Yes, Mr. Eppley, you stated in, you talked about civil service in your update. So you talked about advertising. So you only advertise within the parish?
Yeah, up until this past week, the only place we advertised job openings was on our website. I started the conversation with civil service because we've got many jobs that we've advertised for months and months and have not been able to fill. Civil service had a $10,000 budget for advertising last year that they didn't use. I asked them to do that. I was told we had to use our own individual budgets to advertise. I went back and said, why can't you use your budget? They said that's for civil service to use for advertising. Anyway, they changed their mind. They decided that we could. So now, for the first time, there was an ad put in the Plaquemines Gazette, and we're currently working with civil service to try to get some online advertising available so we can advertise some of these job openings that we haven't been able to fill.
Like Indeed and
Yes, ma'am.
companies like that on social media? That would be great.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Ty.
Mr. Roussel?
And following along the lines on the civil service issue, I know in your report, or at least from your office, I received some information that y'all had made an attempt to go to civil service and to try to change a job description or qualifications, and you were denied
Yes, sir.
by either the director or the board. And now, I guess that's what the question was. What about the guy who worked for 30 years? Did y'all ask to change that high school diploma requirement from the board or from the administrator?
I asked from the administrator if we could change the qualification requirement, and I was denied.
And so I would recommend that the legal department make a recommendation to the board, because the board seems to be more amenable than one individual administrator. And if you need a resolution from the council to do any of that, I'll be glad to support it. But I think we need to get this off the dime and not just let the administrator be one that makes that decision. I think the board ought to make that decision. So if you would compile a listing of qualifications that you would like to see changed, and if you want a resolution to support that, I'm sure that this council would like to support the administration in changing the qualifications to allow you to be able to be successful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Newberry?
Yeah, yes, I know Ms. Taylor's not here, so maybe the president has an answer. So Ms. Taylor said that we have a grant for the Community Action Agency. Is this a new grant, or is this something that we already accepted? Do you know? Does anybody know?
I think that it's a new grant, or is that, if I'm speaking, I should.
Yes, it's for transportation.
It's to buy the new buses?
Yeah, and also, we also got a grant on operating expenses.
That's, and if I'm saying that correctly, I think that's also working with the workforce agency that allows us to get some other employees that they pay. You know, we actually hired one who's working as a receptionist now in the front, and it's part of the workforce program. And I think that's the same one you're talking about.
Yeah, she just put a report.
Yeah,
I just
we're
wanna thank
working,
y'all
yeah,
for
we're
reaching
working to
out.
try to get some more able bodies or some more people in work.
Well, thank y'all for doing that. Thank you.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes. I think our biggest problem is also, a critical part of our problem employing workforce is salaries. It's just the lower pendulum on what I'm told on the workforce, the money is so minuscule that people are not applying for it. And civil service don't really understand that, because we can't operate without certain people. And it has a direct impact on day-to-day operation. And if you're gonna can't hire people with less money than what they're making, and they say like a Burger King or McDonald's, they make more money than what our workers make. We can't get them to apply. That's one of the reasons. We just don't pay enough. We really need to look into that. I know we're doing some Kincaid revision and letting them look at it or whatever, but that's a serious problem, so I don't know what's gonna happen, and we're gonna have to step up some kind of way.
Thank you.
Comment, that's all.
Ms. Marcotte, next item.
Bids and adver,
You could ask your councilman, but you can't ask questions to the administration. That's what they told me.
Mr. Solomon, you think it's possible you can talk to the director, they have something to do with picking up the trash on the road? We're trying to get a couple signs made, letting people know to not to put anything in the dishes in Phoenix. So we've been stopping people from doing it, but there's about at least 3 signs that we need. We think if we put them in these locations, at least people know that they shouldn't be putting that in the dishes. So we just need at least 3 signs. I'm sorry? Yeah, I'll give you the location.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Blank?
The parish had a somewhat successful litter campaign, from what I've understood, in the late 80s, early 90s with Rudy the Redfish. And it would be great if we could bring that sort of thing back parish-wide. I think people are really spending a lot more time outdoors and things like that lately post-pandemic. And a lot of work is being put in around the parish, especially at, say, Jesuit Park, places like that. I think that people are kind of ready for it. Yield.
Thank you. Ms. Marcotte? Yes, sir.
Drexel Northeast, 17977 Highway 15. Mr. Bartholomew, we can go back to number 4. Is there any way you can get our parish president to send a text? Because we always get texts when there's shots in Belle Chase and Port Sulphur. But I know personally, I never get a text when they're giving the shots right here in Davant. Could we do something about that, please? Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Marcotte?
bids and advertisements, there are none. Number 6, beer and liquor licenses.
Key in if you have any. Don't see none.
Number 7, building permits.
You gonna go with Borough Pit, Mr. LaFrance? Can you take the other ones in Globo?
Yes, sir. Number 2, Locks LLC application number 2020-453, dated June 23rd, 2020. Install 4-inch pipeline, Happy Jack Oil and Gas Field, Diamond Area, Councilmember Blank. Number 3, Keen Miller, application number 2021-134, dated February 3rd, 2021. Drill 7 soil borings wells to conduct soil and groundwater testing for a Phase 2 environmental site assessment, 9203 Highway 23, Belle Chase, Councilmember Gouy. Number 4, Texas Petroleum Investment Company, application number 2021-302, dated April 5th, 2021. Prop wash drill the DDC well number 130 and install wellhead protector platform, 3-inch flow lines and 2-inch gas lift line, Delta Duck Club Field, Councilmember Bartholomew. Number 5, Hillcore Energy Company, application number 2021-303, dated April 5th, 2021. Install 4-inch injection line, Lake Washington Field, Councilmember Blank. And number 6, Hillcore Energy Company, application number 2021-304, dated April 5th, 2021. Install 6-inch pipeline, Lake Washington Field, Councilmember Blank.
Mr. Blink, do you offer? Mr. Blink offers there a second? Second by Ms. Newberry. Any questions? Machines are open. And it passes 6 with 3 abstentions.
Seven B, Melissa Stafford, Third Trailer Residence, parcel number 1586144 on East Bayou Road, Belle Chase, Councilmember Roussel.
Mr. Roussel?
Yes, I'll offer this time next for a second. I have gotten, or I have not received any comments on the item, so I'll move forward with the approval.
Mr. Roussel offers there a second? second by Mr. Blink. Any questions? Machine's open. It passes 9-0.
Number 8, introduction of ordinances and resolutions. Mr. Chairman, we have several. For Councilmember Konovich, a resolution urging the Louisiana State Legislature to amend the applicable laws pertinent to official journals of parishes, municipalities, and school boards, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution authorizing the parish president on behalf of the Plaquemines Parish government to name and accept the proposal of the Plaquemines Gazette as the official journal for the Plaquemines Parish Council and all other political subdivisions and districts situated therein, of which Plaquemines Parish Council is the governing authority. A resolution approving and authorizing Thomas J. Surpass, Finance Manager, to execute a Louisiana compliance questionnaire to Kohler, Slavin and Company, LLC, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of the property of lot AB-2, Section 25, T20S, R29E, Southeastern District of Louisiana, west of the Mississippi River, Triumph, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, into lots AB3 and AB4, Section 25, T20S, R29E, Southeastern District of Louisiana, west of the Mississippi River, Triumph, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as shown on the plan and plot of survey by Dufresne Surveying and Engineering, Inc., dated January 15, 2021. The owners having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the parish of Plaquemines without cost to the Plaquemines Parish government or the parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution authorizing the parish president to execute an extension with Bell South Telecommunications LLC and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan, Restore Act projects, Restore Act Bayou Eau Noir project, Restore Act Bay Adams project, and Restore Act East Bank Land Bridge project, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2021 manpower structure, public health fund, ambulances, general department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. For Councilmember LaFrance, a resolution authorizing the request for a conditional use of Gun Concrete LLC for a concrete batch plant in a floodplain zoning district located on a certain tract of land designated as the southern portion of parcel number 1176225, Highway 23, Myrtle Grove, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, Section 10, Township 17 South, Range 25 East, all in accordance with the application number 2021455, dated March 1st, 2021. For Councilmember Roussel, a resolution of the Plaquemines Parish Council addressing the establishment of the policy of Plaquemines Parish government with regard to access to certain parish facilities, directing and carrying out of such policies adopted by the Plaquemines Parish Council and to provide for related matters. Mr. Chairman, that concludes all of the introductions.
Thank you, Ms. Morcott.
We're passing over 9A1 for right now. 9B, a resolution relative to the use of parish-owned and/or operated dock space to ensure the parish is being appropriately compensated and to provide for related matters.
Mr. Bartholomew? Mr. Bartholomew offers as second by Mr. LaFrance. Any questions from the council? Mr. Blink?
Could there be an explanation of this legislation, please?
That's what we passed earlier last year. If you have a business and you want to use the marinas, you have to buy a license from us, right? No, you have to rent space at the marina.
This solidifies place and location inside of the harbor itself, not just to where you generally can run and get a spot and, block up something. So we'll have designated areas assigned for those folks at that point.
Excellent. That was the clarification I was looking for. People had.
Any other questions from the council? Administration? Audience? Machine's open. That passes 9-0.
9C, a resolution ordering and calling a special election to be held in the Parish of Plaquemine, State of Louisiana, to authorize the levy of special taxes therein, making application to the State Bond Commission in connection therewith, and providing for other matters in connection therewith.
Do you want to offer the one with changes, or want to offer this? I'll offer. I'll offer that Mr. Black seconds with changes.
Okay, the changes,
Just for clarification. He's gonna offer it, we'll do a second, and then I'll do an amendment. That way, in case that one fails, it goes back to the original, as opposed to allowing the entirety of it all to fail if one, so.
Okay, I'll offer Mr. Black seconded.
I'd like to propose, an amendment. Did you want to read the amendment, Ms. Marcotte?
okay, under the proposed millage, it's changing it from 1 mill to 2 mills for the tax for one entire year being $1,970,000. And it'll be for improving, repairing, maintaining, and operating of parks, playgrounds, recreation centers, and other recreational facilities, and providing recreational programs in the parish together with necessary furnishings, fixtures, and equipment for the foregoing. That part has not changed. And then on the notice of special election, it's changing it from 1 mills to 2 mills, changing the dollar amount to $1,970,000, and inserting the word repairing. And then the total, the cost of similar elections is $10,066.
I'll offer the amendment.
Mr. Black offers a second. Mr. Alborough seconds. Any questions from the council?
Just the amendment, not the, redundant.
Just the amendment, just for the amendment. Right? It's not on the contest, just the amendment, yeah. All right.
Any other questions? Administration? Audience? Machines are open on the amendment. It passes 8-0.
We have one no vote.
Now we got to vote on the amendment.
Read all the changes again. A resolution ordering and calling a special election to be held in the Parish of Plaquemine, State of Louisiana, to authorize the levy of special taxes therein, making application to the State Bond Commission in connection therewith, and providing for other matters in connection therewith.
Mr. Black offers that amended. Is it Mr. Alborough seconds? Is there any questions from the council? Mr. Roussel?
Just a point of order, it's already been offered and second, the amendment's already been added. So now we're back to the original motion as amended.
Which y'all voted on previously was just the amendment. Y'all have amended the introduced version. Now you're voting on the resolution as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Gass, for clarifying.
Ms. Newberry?
Yeah, I supported this change. I spoke to constituents who don't support it. I've spoke with constituents who do support it. I've spoke with constituents about why the recreation failed last time. I support this one because the younger generation in Plaquemines Parish who have children up now and upcoming don't just want to see us sustainable, they want to see improvements. So I think hopefully that the parish government could push maybe some advertisement on how important this millage is to the people and what we can offer them, not just what we have sustainable, something to improve. And I think if we sell that, we should be able to get the votes for the 2 mil, so.
Any other councilman? Administration? Audience?
It's really hard because
State your name and address for the record.
Reverend Tyrone Edwards, 112 downtown Phoenix.
Thank you.
It's kind of hard because not knowing where all the dollars are going, and I hear Ms. Newberry talk about recreation. Well, recreation is a serious thing for people on the East Bank. And we know for some reason, the recreation program in East Bank has sort of come like the bastard child for Plaquemine Parish in terms of getting the amount of treatment that they need to in terms of the past. So I know is that when it comes down to bringing something for the voters, I know the people in East Bank would have a lot of reservation because the neglect that's taking place here, and I know Belcher has to have a big recreation there, but we hope if you're going to pass this, that you can assure people in East Bank and other parts of the parish that they would get the just treatment, you know, like people expect to have in Belchase, that people in other areas can feel like the people in Belchase feel about the recreation facility there. So I just hope that, I agree with Newberry. I think you really will have to do some really serious promotion where people can get some assurance that this mill is only benefiting a certain area of Plaquemine Parish and specifically for Belchase. So that's my only concern.
I could tell you, Reverend Edwards, if it ain't coming down the road too, I'll be hollering just as loud. Any other questions? Machine's open. That passes 7-2.
D, a resolution ordering and calling a special election to be held in the parish of Plaquemine, state of Louisiana, to authorize the levy of special taxes therein, making application to the State Bond Commission in connection therewith, and providing for other matters in connection therewith.
I'll offer, ask for a second.
I'll second, and then
Seconded by Mr. Black. Mr. Black has an amendment.
Ms. Marcotte.
Yes, sir. Okay, the changes are, in the proposition millage, we're removing the words acquiring, designing, planning, constructing, improving, and we're inserting the word repairing. And then in the notice, it's the same changes. We're removing the words acquiring, designing, planning, constructing, improving, and inserting the word repairing. And the cost is being changed from $30,000 to $10,066.
Offer as amended.
Mr. Black offers that as amended. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Alborough.
Yeah, let me just take a second to explain this one. I know you wasn't at the last meeting, Mr. Blank, so brilliant for your behalf as well. What I, myself and the chairman sat down with the administration to discuss was, as well as Mr. Helmers, and he explained this very well last week, is that their operational budget alone is between 5 and 6 million. The 5 mills would only produce enough funding just for operations. So we wanted to eliminate the possibility of having it stretched to be utilized for projects and such, which would then drain the operational budget potentially and then we'd have to resort back to Rob and Peter to pay Paul just for operations, kind of in the same boat we're in now. Discussed it with the chairman, and in my opinion, I think it is more achievable to pass from a vote of the electorate that way, knowing what specifically it goes to, and knowing that the drainage ditches will be cut, will be dredged, will be maintained, and having that assurance. That sums that up, Mr. Helmer, is pretty much what you, all right, thank you. That's all.
Mr. Blink?
Yeah, sure. I think that that might be a little dangerous. Your side of the parish has many improvements already. I would almost venture to say permanent improvements, maybe the last improvements that the Corps may do, which are up to a pretty significant level of flood protection in the northern end of the parish. And the southern end isn't really afforded that. There needs to be improvements. There needs to be levee raising. There needs to be new pump stations installed. There needs to be polders, so intersecting levees built within the levee system to compartmentalize the system to eliminate or reduce risk. The language that you're proposing doesn't allow for much of any of that, and that's why I can't support it.
Mr. Bartholomew?
I concur with Mr. Richard Bling on that, because I think if we're going to do something like that, the legislation should be specific in terms of where the projects are going to be located, what projects we're going to be working on, and the necessity, the greatest needs of the areas that need to be addressed. Not leave it blanket, because if you leave it blanket, then it becomes opinion, suggestion, or random at the administration decide to move here, move there, not where the need to be. But when we're asking people to put up some money, I think we need to be specific on where their money is going to be spent and how it's going to be spent. And this legislation does not say that. And at this point in time, I cannot support it in this manner.
Mr. Black?
Yeah, so I actually agree with Mr. Bartholomew, and that's exactly why I proposed to take that language out, because it doesn't specify exactly what projects, et cetera. So I do agree with that. If you put just a blanket statement of a project, you don't know where that money's gonna go, because, a council can get 5 votes and then pretty much strip the entire millage for that year of 5 mil, which is the operational cost. And then we're going back to Rob Peter to pay Paul, and we don't have enough money for operations. So I agree with that. To get back to your comment, Mr. Blink, and I've had this discussion with the parish president. I've asked this legal opinion from Mr. Burris, the parish attorney, and the council attorney, Mr. Garrett. Mr. Garrett has opined and gave me his opinion, which I agree with. Mr. Rennie has not as of yet. I've asked the administration to provide that opinion, and it comes to the issue of impact fees. You talked about my district having some upgraded things, and I believe that the parish needs to rectify an illegality that's been happening since 1987 when this ordinance was passed, to use impact fees that are generated for the impacted areas. What would that do for my district? The impact fees from residential building, yes, it would stay in that area to do drainage. However, in areas such as yours and Mr. LaFrance's, things like Venture Global, who pay millions in impact fees, that should go to that area. I agree with that. And those impact fees should be used for drainage projects and things to protect not only that facility, but the people that live in that facility. Same thing on the East Bank. If we have a major project on the East Bank, and that's where it's located, and that project pays impact fees, then those impact fees should go to the East Bank. And those projects are big. Those are multi-million-dollar impact fees that are being sent as opposed to residential. So I think that's the solution to that issue, is to rectify the issue about impact fees. But this is obviously separate from villages. I just wanted to make that statement. That's all.
Ms. Newberry?
Yeah, can somebody explain to me why we taking out the word improving? What would that, Bo, would you know? We scratched out improving the levies. Why would we disregard that?
I think she's talking about we took out acquiring, designing, planning, constructing, improving, and we put in repairing. I think improving could,
I'm sorry, can you
A question,
Question a little louder.
a question is why we took out the word, we took out 5
Improving.
words and replaced it with 1. We took out acquiring, designing, planning, constructing, improving. We added the word repairing. I think the 5 words that were omitted basically took out any possibility of a new
So we use the word repair in
project,
place.
but repairing and maintaining is still, repairing is actually added into it, and maintaining is still in it. So you'd be able to maintain, repair, operate all levees, flood protection, flood control, hurricane protection, tidal and storm protection, storm damage reduction, and drainage works in the parish. It basically just eliminates the possibility of taking a millage used for operations and using it for projects. I mean, all I'm trying to do is separate capital projects from operations.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Blank.
Sure. It was mentioned earlier that 5 council members could potentially raid the fund the way it was maybe written before. I mean, is not that the form of government we have? And in addition to that, I think it is extremely short-sighted to not be able to build new projects. The southern closure at Jesuit Bend over LA 23, this would not allow for a cost share of that? Is that correct? Since that would be a new project?
So in that scenario, say the cost share, say it's probably a $50 million, say a $25 million project, right? And it's 10%. We would deplete, if we had a 10% cost share, which is odd, it's usually 75-25, sometimes 90-10, but we would deplete the entire revenues that's generated from the millage for 1 year to be able to use for a cost share. So we would be left with no money then for the operations.
So are you okay with just cutting grass on levees and finishing no flood improvements for the Jesuit Bend area?
No, absolutely not. We just actually voted, I mean, I know you weren't here last week, you had some other things, but we actually just voted to improve levees in the Jesuit Bend area to utilize some funding. I've actually voted for $60 million to be moved from Reach B to East Bank back levees.
Thank you.
Historically, I think historically, my record shows that I'm in support of levee improvements, infrastructure in a lot of areas throughout this parish, every area in this parish. I think that's proven. My issue, Mr. Blank, is that we could, literally take 10% of $50 million, $5 million, the entirety of what we get revenue from on this millage, and be used for one project. Now, then John's going to come to us, or Scott, the administrator, Mr. Lapine, and say, "Hey, look, we're $5 million in the hole now because we can't cut drains." And so when you complain about Ollie Canal not being dredged or lily pads clogging up the pump station, they're going to say, "Well, we took the money and used it for something else, for a project."
I mean, I think as a council, then we should prioritize, and maybe we shouldn't be focused on recreation. We should focus on keeping the parish dry.
Well, I think that's why we put this before the people, so that people can decide. You know what? If we want a recreation program, we're not only going to get.
These are recurring every year. We're not gonna
Yes,
build a wall and never have to build one again. This is, every year we gotta cut grass, dig ditches.
Exactly.
Maintenance on pumps
This pays
and-
for this is, and Mr. Helmers even said it might not be enough. So, I mean, this is for the annual operation cost. It costs us $5 million to operate what we just mentioned.
So to my point, this does not go far enough, and why not just have a higher millage to not only improve, but build new things too? I mean, we're going to need to build new levee segments, maybe not in your district, but in other places around the parish, including the Port Campus, boulders down the road, that type of thing. I mean, you're ultimately, what you're doing is almost abandoning any sort of real improvements in levee systems that are outside of the HISDRA system, which is where you're at.
No,
it's
maintaining what we have. I mean, how
I'm
many
very
miles of levees do we have to
concerned about the way
maintain?
this is written.
So we have 350 miles of levees to maintain. How many floodgates we have to operate? 43. And how many, I mean, the outflow canals such as Ollie or Planters, Industry, I'm not familiar with the whole.
I mean, this wouldn't allow for a cost share for the Empire Tidal Gate project, which is really crucial to keep the Empire Harbor working. This wouldn't allow for cost share for.
And I would have no problem with the millage going to the people, separate from this, just for coastal,
That might be confusing. Why not just have it all baked into one thing?
because I just can't support not paying the bills we have right now and opening up to other things. I mean, we probably can sit back here, Mr. Blank, for quite some time. I wish we'd had this conversation, over the past few weeks, you and I, but this is news to me that you had an issue with it, so.
Any other questions? Administration? Audience? Oh. Mr. LaFrance?
Yes. We got to be kidding ourselves if we think that any of the millage is going to pass. You really got to be kidding yourself. With the environment that we have today, people are struggling, people are hurting. People are struggling, people are hurting. I don't see this passing. The last time we had a tax proposal, the people in my district told me two top reasons why they didn't support it. Number one was the ITEP. Then there's an industry that being tax exempt. And this council right here allows certain companies to go exempt. Number two reason was the amount of money that we paying our directors. That was the two reasons they told me. And they're not going to support it. I could tell you, they're not going to. That's it.
Yes. State your name and address.
Drexel RC, 17977 Highway 15, Point LaHash. While we're on the subject of flood protection, Mr. Epley, you were supposed to get our pump fixed in Davant. I don't know if you.
This is just about the millages. We
So I
talking.
can't talk about the flood protection.
Millage,
So I'll come back later.
This actually goes, if I may, Mr. Cotton, Chair, this goes to your point, though, because the answer Mr. Epley may say is, well, we don't have the funds. If we had this millage passed and there's extra $5 million, those funds would be dedicated directly for projects like that, which is the maintenance, operation, repairing. So you wouldn't have the administration saying, well, sir, we don't have the money to do it. The money would be within the mills. Now, if we do a project, which is separate from repairing, operating, or maintaining, then that money may be depleted. And then the administration may say, sir, Mr. Narcisse, we don't have the money because we used it for a cost share of a floodgate somewhere else. So that's my point. My point is just to take the 5 mills, if it passes, and I kind of agree with Mr. LaFrance that it's going to be an uphill battle, but if it does happen to pass, that the people in this parish are assured that your pump station's fixed because it's existing, that 15, 39, the levies are cut, and there's no issues with those levies breaking down because they're maintained. I just want to use the money to maintain, operate, and repair the systems we have. That's it. So I think your question was somewhat germane to this topic, and I wanted to just add that in.
Yeah, whoever the mechanic was, you need to bring him back because the pump is smoking so bad, it's running hot. The operator got to stop. You got to stop in the middle of pumping to let it cool off and then start it back up. So you need to get your mechanic back out here if it's under warranty. I mean, it should be under warranty. Just got it fixed.
I have drainage on my update, so you could come up and ask them. Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes, that's one of the problems with appropriation. Back when FEMA, for Katrina did, those pumps had a PW because they went underwater. They were supposed to be replaced. All the pumps were supposed to be replaced. But on the wisdom of the government, they never was. So that's case in point to Mr. France, you're supporting that.
Reverend Tyrone Edwards. Again, Mr. Black, I know that you keep using I as you talk about these millage, but I just know from our community, this parish council have a serious integrity issue. So while you're sounding very good today and using words about assurance and even using the opportunity, as Mr. Northey saying, this would help that, the past history of this country, historical memory tell us that most of the time when stuff happened in this parish, and the number of reasons why most people on the East Bank would probably have a problem with this, because the most things that happen, it benefit Bell Chase. It benefits Bell Chase, a district where you saying I from. And so I'm just saying that this council have to show people that word assurance really means something, and it does not sound like a slick politician like the election time, vote for me and I put a chicken in everybody's basket. We've heard that before. But the past history of this council has proven, especially for those of us who live on the East Bank, we have some serious problems with that. I haven't checked your record yet in terms of your work, in terms of levy, but I just know this parish as a whole have a serious integrity issue when it comes down to people can bet on what you're saying will be delivered.
Thank you, Reverend Edwards. Any more questions?
And just so we're clear, this is a vote on the amendment.
No.
It passed? Okay, so it's vote, okay.
We didn't vote on the amendment.
We didn't vote on,
Oh, you did?
The amendment didn't pass
We are voting,
voting on the amendment.
right.
Yes.
on the amendment.
The vote at the recreation.
We voting on the amendment.
Correct.
Machines are open.
We just opened the discussion a little earlier.
And amendment passed 5-4. Now we voting on the amendment. You offer, Mr. Black?
Well, I think we're waiting for Ms. Marcotte to read the amendment as amended. I mean, the resolution as
sir.
amended.
A resolution ordering and calling a special election to be held in the parish of Plaquemine, state of Louisiana, to authorize the levy of special taxes therein, making application to the State Bond Commission in connection therewith, and providing for other matters in connection therewith.
Offer as amended.
Mr. Black offers, Mr. Albro seconds. Is there any questions on the? Mr. Roussel?
Yes, again, as a point of order, the resolution was already offered and seconded procedurally. It was amended. Now we're back to the resolution as amended. So you don't need to re-offer and re-second. It's procedurally in place.
Any other questions?
What will be on now, recreation?
No. Levies.
Okay.
Machines, any questions from administration?
No.
Audience? Machines are open. That passes 5-4.
E, a resolution ordering and calling a special election to be held in the parish of Plaquemine, state of Louisiana, to authorize the levy of special taxes therein, making an application to the State Bond Commission in connection therewith, and providing for other matters in connection therewith.
I'll offer, ask for a second.
A second, and I have an amendment.
Mr. Black seconds, and he has an amended.
Yes, sir. The amendments are changing the millages from 2 mills to 3 mills, changing the dollar amount from $1,970,000 to $2,955,000. And then after the phrase of providing emergency medical services, we're inserting directly or by contact or both. And then on page 4, on the notice, we're changing it from 2 mills to 3 mills, changing the dollar amount to $2,955,000, inserting the words directly or by contract or both, and then changing the dollar amount of the election from $30,000 to $10,066.
Mr. Black offer. Mr. Roussel.
Did you say,
Mr. Roussel.
I'm trying to get on what was read.
Yes, I'm going to clarify that in a
Okay,
second. For clarification purposes, The language is directly or by contract,
Contract, yes, it's correct.
or both.
Correct.
So it's, I just want to make
Did
sure
I say
that,
contact?
you said contact, but I want the people to know that this will allow the services to be contracted out or both.
Yes, sir, it is it is contract.
That was my question.
Mr. Bartholomew, that was it?
That was my question.
Mr. Black, you offer?
Yes, sir. As amended.
Mr. Black offers and Mr. Alborough seconds. Any questions? This is on the amendment. Anybody from the administration, audience?
Reverend Tyrone Edwards, maybe Councilman Roussel might be able to answer my question because he brought why the word contract is in here.
Ken?
You'll have to direct that question to the amendment author, but my interpretation is that this will allow us to be able to contract the services out, which I am opposed to, so that's why I don't support the item.
Mr. Black?
Yeah, so basically that's somewhat the intent. It allows for the possibility. What I said is that if, with the resolution that didn't include it, the legal opinion we got, myself and Mr. Kagnovich, is that they could still contract it out. What we talked about is we wanted that to be clear to the public that it was a possibility. So even without the amendment that includes by contract or both, the legal opinion was that it could be contracted out. Our opinion was that if you decide to make that proposal, then the public needs to know if they're voting on a millage, that they understand that it could be directly or contracted out. The 3 mills went from 2 to 3 because they need the money to operate. 2 mills was not enough to operate, so if we're gonna fund it, we need to fund it appropriately, to have a good department. This is totally separate from whether or not we privatize or keep it in-house. I would still have to come back before the council. So this millage passed, the administration, before going out for a contract, if they decided to do, would have to present that proposal to the council. Then the council would have to make the decision on whether or not to allow that to take place. So this does not allow for the administration independently, if it passed, to go out and hire a contract company to come in and take over. It gives them that opportunity.
Which means the same thing.
Well,
No.
drawing it up with Mr. Burris, I took that out, being contracted, because I told him I wanted to keep it all in-house. And that's when Mr. Black met with me and Mr. Burris and
Yeah.
put it in. Mr. Burris?
Correct. The amendment that I drafted was for what Mr. Black was proposing, and then obviously, if there's 5 votes for that, there's 5 votes for that. If there isn't, then the default would be back to what Mr. Kagnovich originally introduced, which leaves that language out.
And if it's out, can you go out and contract?
If it's out, I believe you can, yes. There's nothing to prohibit those funds from being, being contracted out, as long as you're serving what the original purposes of the ordinance says, constructing, operating, et cetera. So if you think about it, if there was a millage adopted to man pump stations, and for some reason Plaquemines Parish government just didn't have the manpower to do what needed to be done, there would be nothing inappropriate about Plaquemines contracting out a mechanic to come in and perform those functions, because he would be, repairing or operating the equipment, which would be, towards the purposes of which the millage was adopted.
And if it stays in, it's up to the 9 of us.
Well, no,
if it
it's
goes
up
out
to
the
y'all
contract.
regardless. It's up to y'all regardless, whether the
Well, I'm
language is
just-
in the
I'm just
proposition or
stating.
not. When you all adopt a budget, there's no way the administration could contract out EMS without you all doing the appropriate budget amendments to allow for that to happen. That kind of is what it is.
Thank you. Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes, I think we just need to let the public know up front what's going on. And I think that's part of the problem we're having with being trusted with the people, not being straight up forward. this is a possibility. We could contract these services out at the expense of the taxpayers' money being awarded to the contractor.
If
That's
they
what it
get
said,
5 votes
right?
to
We can't
pass
do
it.
And all the money you paid will go to that contractor to provide service. So we need to let them know that.
Mr. Black?
Yeah, no, and to that point, I mean, that's exactly why, out of transparency, is why I asked to put it in there, because Mr. Bureau said that without it in there, they can still contract out with the council's approval. But when you go before a ballot and people don't see that, they're not clear. That's why I put that in there, that it's directly or by contract or both. That way, when people are voting on it, they have a full understanding that if the administration offers a proposal and the council decides to do it, it's a possibility. So for transparency purposes, exactly is why that line's put in.
Any other questions from the council? Administration? Audience? Machines open on the amended.
Amendment.
It passes 5-4. Now we're gonna vote on the amended.
A resolution ordering and calling a special election to be held in the Parish of Plaquemine, State of Louisiana, to authorize the levy of special taxes therein, make an application to the State Bond Commission in connection therewith, and providing for other matters in connection therewith.
Mr. Black, you offer?
Yes, sir.
Oh, we don't have to do that, Mr. All right, machines are open.
Wait, no. We offer it as amended, right?
They offered the resolution. Amendment passed. This is already.
Right.
Mr. Garrett, can you speak into the microphone, please?
Yeah. Yeah, we still need another round of public.
All right. Any comment from the council? Administration? Audience? Machines open. It passes 5-4.
Mr. Conovich, I have the floor for just a second.
Mr. Black?
Yeah, I'm glad this went out to the people, but this is just really to get it before the people. The administration, I'm asking you guys to really look at this and involve the council members in working with you guys and their constituents about the effects for or against. So just I know we had some issues last time. Meetings were scheduled at the same time as all meetings. So please just assure us that we can.
Absolutely, and thank you, Mr. Black, and the rest of the council members for voting on this and letting the people get their voice out there. And we will set up meetings. Of course, we do 4 and 4 as we do, and we'll come down, we'll go up, we'll go across, whatever we need to do, and we'll have a plan. We want you guys included. So, thank you, guys.
Thank you. Ms. Marcotte?
9F, an ordinance to enact Section 2-80 of the Plaquemines Parish Code of Ordinances to provide for the solicitation and engagement of a contractor or consultant to seek grant revenue for Plaquemines Parish government and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Bartholomew, you offer?
Yes.
Mr. Bartholomew offers. There a second? I'll second. Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes, this is some services that we really need because we are leaving a lot of money on the table, federal funding and other grants that could be put into the pocket of Plaquemine Parish government and day-to-day operation. And the person that would do this job would not get paid through Plaquemine Parish government. They'd be paid on the amount of the grants that they receive. They award themselves salary from the grants that they receive. So we're not looking for any money from the parish to do that, for somebody to come on board and help out and try to bring us some more money into Plaquemine Parish, who specialize in that area. And I think it's a win-win situation for Plaquemine Parish, and it won't cost the parish anything, but it would help out a lot overall throughout the whole parish.
Ms. Newberry?
Yes, Ms. Bartholomew, I just made an introduction. I just want to let you know that the port has an introduction out for a grant writer through Mercury. Mr. President, have you talked to Mr. Sandy Sanders about that with capital outlay where that we're looking at that's going to benefit the port and the parish?
Did I talk with,
Director Sandy Sanders?
No, not
Port-
yet.
Okay, so you're not, okay.
right,
So I just wanted to get that out there. I mean, I think we can pass this resolution
Yeah,
at no
but-
cost to the Plaquemines.
No cost to Plaquemines.
So,
No
you
cost at
know,
all. It's all but a plus. That's what I see.
yeah.
Mr. Roussel?
Yes, this is a typical example of one government going two different directions. Mr. Bartholomew's approach is to get a consultant on board where they'll be working for administrative fees within the grant. On the other side of the house, the port is willing to spend up to $40,000, $50,000 for someone to go out and work grants, so,
And still get paid.
and get paid the money. So there's got to be some kind of coordination here. And I don't mind passing this because I know Mr. Bartholomew's intention and how the grant writers work on administrative fees that are built into the grant. The issue will come up before the port, whether we want to spend some $50,000 or $40,000, whatever the amount is, on that grant writer at the time. So I'll support this ordinance at this time.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes.
Mr. LaFrance?
Yes, Mr. Bartholomew, I'm gonna support you on this legislation. I think this is long time overdue. I think we should have had done this. Thank you for it.
Thanks. Any other questions? Administration? Audience?
Reverend Tyrone, that I don't think that Mr. Bartholomew, Mr. Russo, and I haven't spoke to him on it, would not have a problem with even that person with the Pope helping with that project. But I just think, as Mr. LaFrance say, this is something that's been needed for a long time because we haven't had too much success with getting some of the unusual kind of money that's out there, maybe because the parish is not just used to some of the dollars that's out there, and the person that Mr. Bartholomew talking about probably have some experience of looking at some non-traditional money that the parish never thought about doing. So I hope everybody vote for this resolution.
I might be able to find a grant to get some goats for the fort. Any other questions? Machines are open. He talked already. And it passes 9-0.
G, an ordinance.
Deferred.
H, an ordinance to amend the five-year capital improvements plan, Plaquemines Parish Ferry Preventative Maintenance for year 2016 project and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
All off, ask for a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bartholomew. Can anybody explain this to me?
This is a grant that comes through the state for maintenance, preventive maintenance on the ferries
And we taking the match money from the ramps?
from the project. I don't have anywhere else to take it from.
Do we still have money for the ramps?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Is there,
Mr. Blink?
is there maintenance identified that this money is going to be spent on already? Or improvements?
This is a recurring grant that, so as soon as we use one up, we apply for the next one, and we normally are successful in getting the next one. The previous one is used up, that's why we applied for this one. We were successful in getting this one. This grant money is used for oil changes, any preventive maintenance that we do on the boats, other than like the 5-year recertifications that we're using federal money for.
In channeling Mr. Henry here, how much?
I'm sorry?
Channeling Mr. Henry here, how much? How much is the grant for?
The grant's $240,000. Our match is 60, so it's $300,000 total.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Newberry?
So you said it's a reoccurring grant. Is it every year reoccurring?
No, ma'am. It's out there. It's available. We have to apply for it, but we cannot apply for a new grant until we use up the funds that were available to us in the grant that we have now. So we have previously used up the grant that we had, that we were using. We applied for the new grant. It was awarded, and this would be the new grant that we would use going forward.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Administration? Audience? Machine's open. Passes 9-0.
I, a resolution authorizing Plaquemines Parish government's president to enter into transactions with the LADOTD for sale of property rights and grant of servitude for state project number H.004791 FAP, number H.004791 LA23, Bell Chase Bridge and Tunnel Route, LA23 and LA3017, Plaquemines and Jefferson Parish, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
I'll offer as for a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Black. Anybody wish to speak on this?
Mr. Chairman, DOT came and met with me and told me there was a partial that they needed that was, it's documented in here, it's very minimal. I think what the offer was $275 or.
It was less than that, $72?
Huh?
$72?
$72, okay, well, that,
They spent more than that on this research right here
Well-
for the piece of property.
I said it's a resolution that has to go before the council, so here it is.
What piece of property is this? Is it the flagpole or?
No, it's actually, I think it was only about 40 feet. I'm trying to find the map when he showed me. I was pretty surprised that we owned a piece of partial. in the
40
middle.
square feet, I know that.
Yeah,
40.2, yep.
I gotta find the map, I'm sorry.
Mr. Roussel?
Yes, this question is to the legal department. For alienation of property, do we need an ordinance? And do we need a two-thirds vote?
You definitely need 2/3 vote, for sure. What's that? Yeah. You definitely need 2/3 vote. I was actually surprised, I just noticed that LV had wrote it as a resolution.
Let's move.
Just give me 1 second.
Move. We defer instead of taking.
I won't vote against it, whatever you want to do.
If it's
Let the state come and expropriate it.
It's moot and should be deferred.
Well, let me
Like I
just,
said, that's the paperwork they did on surveying it.
I got it on here.
And they gave the company $1,200 to do this. Why they didn't give us $1,200 for the piece of property?
We might have did it from the campground. He might have messed.
Uh-huh.
I don't see, unless you saw something specific, Mr. Russo. I'm not looking now. I don't see anything in the charter that says it has to be by ordinance. I think traditionally it is done by ordinance. What I see here, though, is, the requirement of the 2/3 vote. So, if y'all would be comfortable with ordinance, then we could, certainly do an introduction next go around and do it by ordinance.
That $72 might break us.
Well, I think we spent more money on copies here. And here's the thing, if we don't do this, the state's gonna exercise its expropriation
That's what I'd like to
authority.
see.
And so,
I'd like to see them expropriated.
I'll defer. Unless you want to vote on it.
J, a resolution authorizing the parish president to file an application with the Federal Transit Administration and Operating Administration of the United States Department of Transportation for distribution of the 5,307 funds, 5307 funds, Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act of 2021, apportionment of the NUSA, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Bartholomew, you offer?
Yeah.
Mr. Bartholomew off, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. LaFrance. Mr. Bartholomew,
All right, there.
any questions from the council? Administration?
This is what the
Mr.
grant will
Rousseau.
be used for.
Mr. Roussel?
Just an explanation of what the grant will be used for.
It's going to be used for salaries in the ferry department.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any questions from the audience? Machines open. Passes 9-0.
And you're right, Mr. Russell, it does need to be by ordinance, so we'll redraft it. I have no idea why he put it in resolution form, but we'll redraft it, introduce it as a ordinance at the next meeting.
9K, an ordinance to amend the 2021 manpower structure and operating expenditure budget, Ferries General Department, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Offer.
Mr. Bartholomew offers there a second? I'll second. Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes, that's the items, a line item where we want to take the money from. It's agreed upon by the administration that is needed, the 300,000. We'll put the ferry back.
Can't hear you, Mr.
Can you
Bartholomew.
speak into the mic?
300,000 would be enough to take care of the ferry for the rest of this year. Put it back in operation mode in the normal to accommodate the working people as well.
Any questions from the council? Mr. Black?
Yeah, I just wanted to get clarification from administration. So what exactly does this do?
This would provide one additional crew to operate the ferry extended hours
For the rest of the year?
for the rest of the year.
So there's no more appropriations to be before this council to operate the ferries for the rest of the year?
No, this would be enough for salaries for the rest of the year for one crew, if we're able to hire a crew to operate extended hours on the ferry.
It's coming from,
Coming from
General fund?
emergency fund and unreserved, undesignated.
Mr. Roussel?
And the appropriation that we just passed, how much was that?
449,000.
And that's not enough to cover this?
No, sir, that money was already budgeted, because when we did the budget, or when you guys amended the budget in the December meeting, we also expected tolls to be increased, which would generate $500,000. Right now, since tolls were not increased, we're going to have about $100,000 in revenue from tolls rather than $500,000 in revenue. That FTA money is going to make up the difference.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions from the council? Administration? Audience?
Drexel, North Sea, 17977 Highway 15, Point LaHash. We recently did a petition, and it says, petition to our parish president and members of the council for an ordinance to reinstate the ferry to its original schedule or a proposed schedule that extends the current working hours. I mean, we've been up here with this same thing over and over. I have over 500 signatures from residents of the parish. Wish I had more time or to got more signatures, but we have over 500 signatures. So it's not just one or two people saying that this ferry is important. It is not just the East Bank, it's people throughout the parish is complaining about the ferries. So we have to do something about it. You all have to find the money somewhere to get this ferry running. It is a vital organ in this parish. I don't see how you can deny it. I don't know. You get up here and pray and ask God to give you the knowledge to know right from wrong, and then you don't do the right thing. You're playing with God, for one thing. So let's stop playing with God and do the right thing.
You
What
going,
those,
Mr. Black?
Yeah, Mr. Narcisse, I appreciate that, and I'm gonna tell you, I don't take the ferry, like most folks from East Bank take it on a daily basis. So I don't really understand that issue. However, I do empathize with it. I understand, I wasn't on a council meeting a couple of months ago, and a gentleman came up who works at ConocoPhillips and really gave a great speech to talk about being in that position for over 25 years and now may have to take a retirement because he can't get to work on time. And I understand that the ferry system is vital. And it's kind of ironic that you bring up God and prayers because it seems like for the last 6 years, at least since I've been on this council, we've been praying for a solution, but we've never gotten one. I'm gonna vote for this because I've been assured that it's gonna take us through the rest of the year at the normal schedule, but this is just a Band-Aid. I mean, we really need to do some hard work to figure out a fix for this problem, because it's a problem. This is just a Band-Aid. Passing this is not the fix. This is just putting a Band-Aid on a situation for a few months. And I understand the issues that we have, but like you talked about prayer, like I just said, for 6 years, I think we've been praying for this thing to get fixed and not really doing the super hard work that needs to be done. And I hope that we can work as a council and administration together to find out a solution that fits within the budget, that's amenable to the public, and that could provide a service. At what level, I don't know. So thanks for your comments.
Mr. Blank?
Sure. Mr. Black, I think that the hard work has been done. I think that I've done a lot of research putting together legislation that would increase the tolls, that would put the money in a box, that would spell out how finance would come and make collections. There's other legislation that was on the table for a while to move the whole system over to the port where they get a lot of grants over there. They do really good at that kind of thing. So, I mean, we just needed the votes, and I never could pull them together here to increase the tolls.
So I'll respond to that because there is a lot of work in the background. The hardest job that we have, the real hard work, is actually pushing this button, this yes or no button, in my opinion. In my 6 years plus on this council, that's the toughest job, is pressing that button one way or another, okay? Now, as far as that part of the hard work, we've never gotten there because we had 2 items that were put on the agenda. One was yours, which you did a lot of work to get to that point, but it never came up for a vote. Never did. The second one was Mr. Roussel's, like you just said, about moving to the port. I said I'm 100% in agreement with moving the operation of the ferry, the personnel, the facilities, the assets to the port. And I said I would vote for that transfer if it was brought to a vote, and it never was. So you talked about not having the votes. Listen, in my opinion, and from my experience, I'll steal one of Mr. Roussel's lines, but I don't know what the vote is till those lights come on. And that's how it is. So you have an ordinance, Mr. Roussel has one. I'm not going to discuss whether I agree or disagree with them, but the one Mr. Roussel had, that you discussed, I mean, that's something we can talk about. But I'll leave it at that. But that's the hard work.
Mr. Roussel?
Yes, just for the public's information, the port is now currently paying $1.5 million for the operation of the port. So it hadn't gone on unanswered. If they would have been able to afford more, they would be paying more. And I'm hoping that we get to that point. So I'm willing to do the hard work right now and push the button, so I'll call a question.
I got one statement, if you don't mind.
Question's been called, man.
Question called. Oh, machine's open.
Thank you for calling the question.
Passes 9-0.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I'd like
sir.
to take a privilege at this point to thank the council members, the administration, Mr. Kurt Lepine and Todd Empley mainly, for putting this issue to rest. You are serving the people of Plaquemine Parish, making the people have a way out of being poverty. It's those continue working and getting their jobs. So I want to thank all y'all for y'all support and making that happen. And I hope we continue to do whatever we have to do with that in mind of the parish people, the parish, what's best for Plaquemine Parish. What'll make us unite, what'll make us grow together.
Thank you, Mr. Bartholomew. Ms. Marquette?
9M, a resolution approving the request variance petition filed by A&S Real Estate LLC to vary the rear yard setback requirements from 25 feet to 3.8 feet for an existing building to be converted from commercial to residential located at 8660 Highway 23, Belle Chase, Louisiana, all in accordance with application number 2021-454 dated January 4th, 2021.
Mr. Alborough?
Offer.
Mr. Alborough offers, there's a second.
Second.
Mr. Black seconds. Any questions from the council, administration, audience? Machines are open. And it passes 7-0.
N, a resolution of the Plaquemines Parish Council authorizing and special counsel Danny P. Garrett III to represent the Plaquemines Parish government for the purpose of legal advice and litigation related to the enforcement of Chapter 18, Article 5 of the Plaquemines Parish Code of Ordinances and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Roussel, you offer?
I'll offer with the following changes on the preamble of resolution of the Plaquemines Parish Council authorizing scratch and authorizing special counsel Danny B. Garrett to represent the Plaquemines Parish scratch government, insert the word council. And on line 22 and 21, scratch parish of Plaquemines and insert Plaquemines Parish Council. And I'll offer it for purposes of discussion with those items changed.
Mr. Roussel's offer, I'll second.
Yes, what this is, it's a direct result of meetings with the administration. I read Mr. Burris's dissertation yesterday about the charter. I corrected that problem just now, Mr. Burris. Now, the only reason we're here is because in those meetings, we were informed, Mr. Konovich and myself personally, that the administration was not going to appoint an attorney in accordance with the ordinance that's on the books for the attorney to handle the borough pit issues. Now, in your letter, you stated a bunch of items about legal issues and hunting for things and rumors. That's not the intention of the Borough Pit Committee or us to say that there's some legal questions out there. What we are trying to do is we are trying to find out where we stand with all of the court cases, all of the agreements that have been signed, and where do we go from here with Borough Pits forward. That's why we need the legal advice and somebody committed that's not going to dance around the issue and get us back to the ordinance 2012. And that's as bluntly as I can put it, but I appreciate your letter. I corrected the issue, and you're correct, that he cannot represent the government, but he can represent the council. And if the administration does not want to appoint an attorney and be sincere in getting us to that point, then we have Mr. Garrett in the background to do that. So I'll leave it with that and ask for comments.
Any comments from the council? Mr. Black?
Yeah, has the administration been afforded that opportunity to review the issues brought up at the Borough Pit Committee or any kind of legal issues? Have you had that opportunity to even review it before we authorize Danny to do anything?
No, I mean, my understanding is Mr. Tuesday attended at least one or maybe two, one he wasn't able to attend because he was in court. My understanding is it was the will of the committee that we hand over all the documents and all the information we have, which we did. And I know he was participating in that. And, you know, what I've told all the council members is the parish attorney's office is that's what we do. We do enforcement. I'm willing to enforce the ordinances, right? I'm willing to give legal advice. And what I'm saying is to the council or the committee or whoever is that when the information is provided to us or specific legal questions are asked of us, I'm willing to opine. I'm willing to take a look at that. The thing that I've challenged and the thing that I've said is that we're not, the legal department isn't investigators. The legal department isn't auditors. The legal department isn't engineers. And so, we're willing to provide legal advice, and when the evidence and the information, wherever it comes from, whether it be the council committee, whether it be someone in the administration, where it be whatever, we'll take whatever actions necessary to enforce the ordinance, take a look at. And like I said, the only specific questions that's been presented to well, I shouldn't say the legal department, I should say myself, is how the prior agreements affect the new permits going forward. And we're willing to opine on that issue. And to the extent that other specific legal questions are presented to us, I'm willing to opine on that. The legal department, however, can't regulate borough pits, is my whole argument. And to the extent the committee or the council wants to appoint the legal department to go out and regulate borough pits, that's not our job. That's not what we do. And quite frankly, it puts us in a position where, we end up being or taking an executive action, and that gets in the way of us representing the government, down the line. So, I don't know what to say more than that. And look, and my email to you was nothing against Mr. Garrett. It was nothing. And if Mr. Garrett wants to provide y'all information and advice and, whatever, I'm willing to work with him on that. And to the extent that you all come up with either new ordinances you want to adopt, amendments you want to do, or evidence presented to us in which we can go make a case, file a case, or provide you all with specific, answers to your questions, we're willing to do that. I don't know what more I can say to that.
Well, let me say something, because I can say some more. Mr. Black, to answer your question, at the very first Borough Pit Committee meeting, Mr. Jack Tuzet, sat in the meeting, and we asked him if he was the attorney that was appointed, because there is an ordinance by this body directing the parish president's office to appoint an attorney for that specific purpose. It's on the books, and that's something that we found when we started digging through the documents. So our natural progression was to ask the administration if they were going to appoint an attorney. Mr. Jacques Tuzet at the meeting said that he was a resident of the East Bank and he was there for concern. And I asked him specifically, and go back and watch the meeting if you like, if he represented the parish. And he was hesitant on that, and he didn't really want to be there. It was obvious. One thing led to another. We are not on a witch hunt for legal avenues, for suits or things of that nature, but what we want to do is, and I'll repeat myself, if the administration is willing to take a stand on a permit that's on the agenda today and provide the language that we are going to be operating under the ordinance that's on the books today, the 2012 ordinance, that's what we've asked for from day one. Now, if the administration is not willing to look at the history or didn't look at the history yet to get us to that point, that's why we backed up to Mr. Garrett, because we didn't get an appointment from the administration. Now, I would like to see us pass this resolution and have Mr. Garrett as a backstop if we don't get the cooperation or we don't get the answers we need to adopt these borough pit permits and renew them under the ordinance of 2012. But we need the legal advice to tell us what legal position we're in with all of the agreements that have been made, some good, some bad, and some unknown. Without going back too far, you can go back to the past administration, Mr. Cormier's administration, and see an agreement that he signed, which the body never approved. And I don't want to get back into the history too far, but this body also approved a settlement with the Myrtle Grove Borough Pit that opened the door. And then it came back with Mr. Cormier signing an agreement to open the door wider based on that agreement. So my point is now, where are we with an ordinance? Because if we don't take a stand and get on firm ground with this ordinance, then the backfill issue and all of those issues are out the door. We might as well go home and forget about permitting borough pits, and they can do what they want. And that's the whole issue here. And it's not a matter of hanging wallpaper up to do things. We're trying to get back to the basics.
Mr. Black?
Yeah, and I didn't watch the entirety of the bar committee meeting to see Mr. Tuesday's comments, Mr. Russo. But I would ask you if you would make a consideration to defer this for maybe a meeting or two and give the parish administration, in particular the parish attorney, time to review it and have a discussion with Mr. Tuesday. Because if that's what's in the ordinance and that's his job is to review, then I think they need to have maybe that, I'm not sure if you've had that discussion or with Mr. Russo or with Mr. Tuesday about the position he holds on that particular committee or his role. But I would try to do as much in-house as we can before we,
It's only introduced for discussion, right?
okay, so.
Mr. Gould.
Dr. Gui?
I can tell you what I want. When that ordinance was passed in 2012, the basis of the ordinance was to build our levees. And through research and discussion, it was decided that in order to build the levees within the amount of money that was budgeted for the levees, it would be advantageous for us to use local dirt. Now, I may be repeating what other people have said, but I think it's very important to understand this. The giveaway was you guys who come in for a borrow pit permit will not be required to backfill as long as every ounce of that dirt is put on Plaquemines Parish levees. Period, no exceptions. If you take that dirt and you put it anywhere else, you will backfill. It's in your permit. As Benny said, the door got opened. Now, I want to close that door, but don't know how to do it. What we're asking is that we get a legal opinion of what are our options. Can we close that door and go back to the intent of the original ordinance, which says, dig your clay, give us our levees, you don't have to backfill. Understand, two people have gotten exemptions. They can sell their clay outside. What about the other borrow pit owners? They're coming on. They're going to want the same exemption. Can we close that door? And that's all I want to know. Can we close the door? If we can't close the door, then we can't close the door. If it takes going to court to get a decision, we'd like to know if that's our only option. What are the options? So I don't think it has anything to do with enforcement or anything else, other than let us know what our options are. And I think that's as simple as I can put it, Rennie. Is that understandable? That's all we want to know.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't mind,
Yeah.
specific questions that you all have of what you're trying to accomplish. I'm willing to answer those, okay? That's not a problem. So when questions like that are presented, and that's what we're working towards, that's what we do. We provide legal advice, right? My concern is, or what my concerns were, watching some of the committee meetings, it was kind of like, we have an issue with, first of all, we should not be opining, or at least I'm not of the opinion that the legal department should be opining either publicly or at a committee meeting about all the legal issues that surround borough pits. Okay, so I don't, we're talking about how many operators we have in the parish. We're talking about 6. A couple of them have agreements. A couple of them have old permits. Some of them, these are very delicate legal issues. And so I would like to just give some brand pronouncement, this is the way it is. But I'm first of all, I'm not going to publicly do that without looking at each individual one. So we can look at each individual one as they come up, or the specific ones that the council has that they're interested in. We can review the law and see to what extent any of these agreements hinder our ability to regulate going forward, or whether or not those agreements, the door is closed and everyone's got to follow whatever the ordinance that was adopted in 2012. So, you know, we're prepared to do that.
There's no public announcement. If, unless I'm wrong, I thought that any information here would be kind of an attorney-client privilege. And so it wouldn't be a public statement unless we chose to make a public.
That's what I'm saying. I'm willing to provide you all information behind closed doors about these issues. The committee was asking Jock, and look, I have to go back and look at each. It was, you know, it was almost as like, you know, we're looking for some legal advice in a public setting about very delicate, sensitive, and specific legal issues. And I'm not willing to do that. But behind closed doors, we could look at each issue, each permit, and we can opine whether or not what your options are related for each permit moving forward.
That's it. Then the
Yeah.
question's been answered. Rousseau, do you agree?
Let me
Mr.
tell you
Roussel?
something. The Borough Pit Committee, when it was formed, had no knowledge of anything about borough pits other than what they had heard on the street. We brought Pat Amedy in, who has done audits for us, who is handling cases for us, to give us a presentation for an educational purpose. He educated the Borough Pit Committee. He gave us information that some of us liked and some of us did not like. We didn't ask Mr. Tuzet to opine on anything. The most we asked him for was he in the position that the ordinance asked the administration to appoint? So without belaboring this any longer, I would like to see us do just what Dr. Gouy said, get to the final door and see if it's open or not. I put this on the table because in the meetings with the administration, I was told point blank that you were not going to assign somebody to do this. Now, I've gotten out on a limb on this, prepared this resolution, introduced it, asked my colleagues to vote for it because of that reason. Now, having said that, I'm tempted to move forward with it just to have the backstop in case the administration decides they don't want to chase the nickels, as what I was told. We're not chasing nickels, and that's what y'all told me. You didn't want to chase the nickels. So this was never about nickels. This was about the policy of how we handle the permits. So, you know, without going any further, I'm not sure where we're headed. But if you're going to appoint an attorney, according to the ordinance that's on the books, that'll be the first start. So let us know what that is. And if not, I'll ask my colleagues to vote on the resolution. If not, I'll defer it, and we'll see where we go from here.
Mr. Patat? Key back in?
Basically, that's the same scenario Mr. Roussel addressed. It's the same thing that happened when we first had the Borough Pit Committee. We could never get no legal assistance from the administration to develop an ordinance that would put it under global context, where everybody would abide by this one ordinance, whatever it is, and that everybody have to live with that. And in essence, just like earlier, that you have pit operators, all of them just about had different permits. And we were trying to get something in the global text where everybody can abide by, and we can keep a closer eye on everything and make sure everything is done right. And that's the reason why I dissolved the first time. It just laid out because we could never get the legal support from the administration at that time.
Mr. Blank? Mr. Burris?
Yeah, look, more eyes the better. So if if you guys want to pass the resolution and let Mr. Garrett advise you all as a council or the committee, we're all for that, right? I mean, I'm okay with that. I've had a good relationship with Mr. Garrett. Huh?
Wait, so you're okay with spending money? I mean, just talk to your boss first before you say you're.
No, I mean, if
Spending money.
if that's,
Not doing it in-house.
well, that, if
That's the only reason I'm here.
I understand that. And let me, I mean.
if that's the will of the
aggravates me.
council, huh?
That aggravates me that we want to, you're okay with spending money
Well-
when we just had a budget discussion 2 weeks ago about laying off people. So instead of answering Mr. Roussel, Now you got me fired up, because instead of answering Mr. Russo, and I'm back and y'all saying, hey, let's do this thing in-house, because I think you can do the job. I think Jacques can do the job. Give you guys the first shot to review it. Now you're saying, well, we're okay on the administration side to go ahead and spend a bunch of money and let Mr. Danny Garrett
Well,
do it.
But let me say that, yes, we was in the meeting. Yes, we did say I wasn't going to appoint anyone. And that is my words. Exactly. But it seems like we need to get on the same footing. So what I'm going to tell you guys is we're going to try to do what we can to help you out. Mr. Gui said it elegantly. We're going to examine each one of these permits and then decipher where we're going from here. Okay? So if you heard it here. All right?
Mr. Blink?
Sure. What exactly is the deal? I mean, I know the developers of these borrow pits are sort of the rich and the powerful Plaquemines. I mean, can we just not go in and chip away at it and get everybody right? What's the deal?
I couldn't understand. I'm having a hard time hearing you. You're away from the mic, Mr. Blink. You're leaned back speaking, and I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
I mean, I just don't understand why we're not handling it. I'm sorry, I didn't realize there was an IT.
The legal department's willing to, like I said, provide advice, move forward. Here's a problem.
Is there a conflict?
Nobody's regulating the borough pitch. There's no one in the government there was supposed to be.
That's why we need your help.
There was supposed to be inspectors. What's that?
That's why we need your help.
Yeah, for legal advice, right? I can provide you legal advice, but I can't go out there and tell you who's trucking
We're not
blood
looking for
to
that,
other
man.
parishes. I can't, huh?
I'm asking for that.
Well,
But let me just say this.
We will give you exactly what I told you, what Mr. Gui said.
No,
We will examine every permit as we do and see where we're at on each one.
can I ask this question? Will you comply with the ordinance that's on the books to appoint an attorney as a point man that will be in charge of this project? If not, I'm going to call a question and ask my colleagues to support this resolution.
Mr. LaFrance?
I think the question that we are dealing with is not about capability. I think the issue that we are having is commitment. This is where we feel that we are lacking in the commitment.
You're right.
Dr. Gui?
Kirk, I just want to see if we can close that door that got open. That's it. And put everybody back on the same playing field. And if we can't do it, tell us why. And if we can, tell us how. I think that would satisfy, and that satisfies me. I can't speak for anyone else.
Mr. Black?
Yeah. The only issue I have with your resolution at this point now, after hearing all of this, is the line 3, the word litigation, and then furthermore, if it says it again in the,
Okay, I'll amend the line 3, legal advice and litigation. Just,
no, you can leave in legal advice.
no, I'm taking out and litigation.
Okay.
So after legal advice related to the enforcement of chapter, I'll take out litigation.
All right, what about, you already changed the enforcement on 22?
22.
And it's 22 and 27, did you?
Oh,
You want me to take out that section?
Yeah, take out, if you take out 20 to 23,
I'll delete that. What's next?
yeah, no, 25 through 28, I mean, it's fine. I think all it does is just allows the executive branch to opine and assist Danny in his efforts towards take out enforcement and put legal advice.
All right, I'll withdraw my resolution and offer it with those changes. Next for a second.
I'll second.
Call a question.
Can you read the amendments just to make sure?
All right,
A resolution of the Plaquemines Parish Council authorizing special counsel Danny P. Garrett to represent the Plaquemines Parish Council for the purpose of legal advice related to the enforcement of Chapter 18, Article 5 of the Plaquemines Parish Code of Ordinance and otherwise provide with respect thereto. Therefore, if the now therefore be it resolved, sections, you delete lines 21, 22, 23. And the lines, the rest remains the same.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's got.
Yeah,
28, right? Wasn't it 28?
yeah, 27. At 27, Benny was,
No, it is mine.
take on enforcement, you take on enforcement.
Leave it on enforcement.
You wanna leave it?
We enforce the old ordinance.
Legal advice and enforcement?
Take out pertaining to chapter.
Yeah, we want to enforce the old ordinance.
Where's enforcement at?
Enforcement
Well-
of- just add enforcement of the ordinance.
That the special counsel, Danny P. Garrett, is hereby authorized, directed to undertake the representation of the parish in matters pertaining to the enforcement. How about, he's hereby authorized, directed to advise.
Yeah, but he's not representing us or anything. All he's doing is providing us legal advice towards the enforcement of the ordinance, in his efforts towards the enforcement of the ordinance. You know what I mean? So if that's
Right.
out,
Well, that's, but I want to hire Danny.
we're gonna hire him through this.
Oh, you know better than do that. What are you trying to squeeze me to give me my commitment?
And through the preamble.
But he didn't want to help you with that, there's dishes and stuff?
Not because of that.
Is that allowed to hire him?
Probably so, just.
Look, be it resolved by this council, the special counsel, Danny P. Garrett, is hereby authorized, directed to undertake the representation. Hereby
I like this. Just
authorized.
take out, somebody authorized, directed to undertake matters pertaining, you know what I'm saying? Just take out all the way to end.
One trip.
Undertake matters pertaining to the enforcement of chapter, blah, blah, blah.
All right.
Then that's good, yeah.
Okay, the rest of the amendment is as follows. You leave in sections 20 through 23 now.
Yes.
And it says, be it resolved by the Plaquemines Parish Council that special counsel Danny P. Garrett is hereby authorized, directed to undertake matters pertaining to the enforcement of Chapter 18, Article 5 of the Plaquemines Parish Code of Ordinances.
If I'm understanding, you're gonna take the word enforcement all the way out of
No,
that?
it's in.
No, it's in there.
Oh, okay, because to me, you know, I heard, if it's Mr. Beard's name, when he first started talking up, as parish attorney, should be about enforcement. If the parish office, the legal department, is not the enforcement, who is the enforcement in this parish? I mean, that is you think that's why it was designed, to be the enforcement, anything that come out, they're supposed to enforcement. That was the understanding of creating a legal department so they could be in the business of enforcement. You know, and to me, for the legal department not being in the business of enforcement, it's taking out a great part of their responsibility to this parish. Then, you know, I mean, all other person home or enforcement is the sheriff. And the sheriff can't do nothing as related to parish government until he get it from the legal department. So I'm surprised that our legal department is taking a position that they're not in the position of enforcement. To me, that is a sad commentary. Now, I would say this, Mr. Blink was talking, and one thing I heard him say, something about the powerful and rich. If that is the real issue why we don't want to deal with, we don't make it public because there are some, everybody know on the streets. The grapevine is saying that the reason why this is happening because there are some rich people that's powerful in this parish that's violating this ordinance and people don't want to touch them. That's in the grapevine all over. So there ain't nothing private about that. And it's public record that some people gonna know who those people are. You know, and so we just got to come and bring truth to power. And I just think something need to happen with the legal department being the business enforcement. We shouldn't even have to be going through this thing with Mr. Garrett when we got a legal department supposed to be doing that. Look, I can go back to this thing way back because I remember my mother and I coming here and had the news media here to looking at how these borrowed pits were created at the very beginning. So I have some serious historical memory about that. And as Dr. Good say, It wasn't never designed for these people to be taking this dirt outside the parish. But because of certain people being political connected and powerful, they have been given privilege to take dirt out of this parish and use an ordinance that was designed to get dirt to keep in the parish to make money of taking dirt out of the parish. Let's call it what it is. If it's cracked like a duck, it's a duck.
Let me just say that's a totally inaccurate representation of what I said. I said that the legal department would enforce it. Okay? When facts and evidence is brought before us, the legal department will enforce it if someone's breaking the law. The point I've made is that there's no regulation. There's nobody in the government who is making sure that these borough pit operators are following the law. And that's part of the reason we're in this mess. And, you know, if the council wants to appoint me to do all of that, I'm just saying that's not what we do. And so I've recommended to the council that they either create a position, whether it be in the permit office, whether it be a new office or whatever, to comply with the ordinance that was originally passed. If you read Section 8 of the ordinance that was originally passed, no, I'm responding to him because he's making allegations that in other words, I'm not doing my job or that I want to do my job. And the point I'm making is I'm willing to enforce whatever needs to be enforced. But there has to be a regulatory department, person, something who's keeping an eye on all of this. And there's not. There's not. And so I can provide legal advice based on what the ordinances say and based on what the agreements say. But if you really want to regulate borough pits, you need to provide the administration with the resources to do it. That's the only point I'm making.
I know for a fact, and if I need to stand in front of you, I'm not backing down from what I'm saying. I'm just saying from the beginning of this thing, it was always the responsibility of the legal department to be the enforcement for this. That's always been it. I don't know when that changed, but the legal department is responsible for that. That is the purpose of the legal department. And I stand on that. I'm not backing down for anything that I say. I'm saying that the legal department is not being enforcement, that they're being derelict in their duty.
Hey, Mr. Blink,
Sure.
speak into your mic.
Just besides trucks leaving the parish with clay in the back and violating the theory that why these borrow pits were set up, why the regulations were set up. When borrow pits are dug here, that land is more or less taken out of commerce forever. You can't do anything with it. It's unrealistic to think anybody's really going to fill it in. They don't even utilize them as catfish ponds here. And, I mean, we're just cannibalizing the inside of the levee system to make these things. So, I mean, there's more to it than just hauling it over to Lafitte.
Mr. Roussel?
Look, the problem that I'm trying to address is that there is an ordinance, and this is probably the fifth time I've said this in this conversation, that this ordinance is on the books by this previous council asking and directing the parish president to appoint an attorney to do this job. Now, if you say you can't do it, you don't have the resources, you know, that's not even what I'm discussing. I'm just calling the question.
Question's been called. Machine's open. As amended. And it passes 9-0.
9-0.
You wanna
A
leave?
resolution to establish a one-year moratorium prohibiting the receipt of any permit application.
Deferred.
P, a resolution authorizing Plaquemines Parish government's president to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with Phillips 66 Alliance Refinery for levee maintenance at Mississippi River and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
So often.
Mr. LaFrance offers there a second. I'll second. Mr. LaFrance,
As written.
any questions from the council?
Yeah, just 1 second.
Mr. Black?
This is for them to be able to cut it?
Yeah, this is for ConocoPhillips, the levying ConocoPhillips for them to keep it up, to keep the maintenance, the grass cutting, and keeping it clean off on the bachelor side. Basically everything what we do.
Okay, good, yeah, because I remember a few years ago, they tried to give it back to us, and then we fought that back. I'm just making sure that it wasn't reverting back to us doing it, just them. All right, thanks.
Any questions, other questions from council, administration?
Yeah, I just want to say that Mr. Cooley went and met with Philip 66 and Mr. Helmers, and I don't know if Todd was with them or not, and discussed all this. And so we basically told them, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Russo. So we basically told them what our sort of demands were if they wanted to use the levy system, and they've agreed to this. And so, so to answer Mr. Black's question, they're going to be making these repairs and stuff. So.
Any questions from the audience? Machines open. Passes 5 with 1 abstention.
I supposed to vote yes on that. I know that.
Mr. Bartholomew has a verbal yes. Ms. Newberry?
I voted. A verbal yes.
Ms. Newberry's a verbal yes, too. So it's 7 with 1 abstention.
Q, an ordinance to amend the 2021 Public Health Fund operating revenue budget, mosquito control general, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Blank, you offer?
As read.
Mr. Blank offers. There's a second.
This is to put back some of the,
I'll second.
into the budget, some of the amendments that were made earlier, which passed.
Explain that again.
So there were a couple of proposed amendments that passed, and which was with the Grand Bayou Village exemption and secondary water meters. So for instance, if you had an agricultural meter, or an irrigation meter, I'm sorry. If you had an irrigation meter or Grand Bayou Village where the mosquito control department can't service, we had made amendments to make mosquito control legislation, and this just puts those amendments into the budget, the cost of those amendments into the budget.
Any questions from the council? Administration? The audience? Machines open. Passes 8-0.
R, a resolution authorizing the parish president to negotiate office space at 333 F. Edward A. Bear Boulevard, Belle Chase Government Complex, Building 600 to the Veterans Affairs, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Offer is read.
Mr. Black offers and Mr. Alborough seconds. Mr. Black?
It just keeps up to date about whether they're coming back or not, once y'all talk to them.
Yes, they were just waiting to come back.
All right.
We actually held the keys until this was approved.
Okay, all right.
Any other questions from the council, administration, audience? Machines open. Passes 8-0.
9A1, an ordinance to amend and is amended readopt Chapter 17.5 Parks, Recreation, and Parish Facilities of the Plaquemines Parish Code of Ordinances relative to fees and a sponsorship policy and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. And there are changes.
Nine A1?
Yeah.
Okay, the changes are under Section 1, we're removing the Section 17.57, fees and sponsorships, we're removing Sections A and B.
Thank you.
And renaming Section E, the letter B as in boy. We're moving Section D. And under section, we're renaming Section E, letter G. And we're adding a line in Section 2 that says, and all other provisions in Section 17.5-7 shall remain unchanged and in full force and effect.
I'll offer, ask for a second, and I'll explain.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Gui, hold on. We have a, Section B, I need to read it, it's an addition, my apologies. Section B, athletic field rental fees for non-parish run programs. Number one, there shall be a rental fee to use any parish-owned athletic field. Number two, for parish residents, the athletic field rental fee shall be $30 per hour without field lights and $40 per hour with field lights. Number three, for non-parish residents, the athletic field rental fee shall be $55 per hour without field lights and $100 per hour with field lights. Number four, all athletic fields shall be rented on a first-come, first-served basis, and a reservation shall only be made after a full payment has been made. Number five, Plaquemines Parish volunteer fire departments are hereby exempt from athletic field rental fees. And that concludes the changes.
Mr. Gui offers, is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Newberry seconds, Dr. Gui.
What, the original ordinance, I decided to change because today we are going to put a referendum before the voters in regards to recreation. What I took out of here was any fees associated with parish-run recreation programs, parish-run programs. It came to my attention through Mr. Henry and Mr. Epley that non-parish-run programs are allowed to use our fields and pay nothing. So we broke down the non-parish programs, which would be the travel teams and adult leagues that are not sanctioned by the parish, that are independent. And they use the fields that we're not getting any revenue for that. What this does is sets up a fee schedule now, the revenue is not going to make the department break even by no means, but it's just a fair and equitable assessment that Mr. Henry did with all of the surrounding parishes and surrounding facilities that do rent their facilities to non-parish recreation programs and what their fees were. And he felt that these were reasonable fees to charge, and I'll answer any questions. I know Rennie has helped with the drafting. Todd's been helping too, and you can ask me or any of them if you have any questions. I'll yield.
Mr. LaFrance?
Yes, or this for all parks?
Con, I think that's any parish recreation
Because
park.
presently, there are some parks that's substandard. And if you give me a couple of minutes, I'll show you what I have in my district.
Oh, well, Mr. LaFrance, I wasn't really evaluating the parks. I appreciate that. I know you're right. You're absolutely right. This was for, not for parish-run programs that our kids pay or the parents pay for the kids to participate. This is people who pay nothing to come and use our parks. Now, down the
So these
road,
are
if you
for
wanted.
people that's out of our parish.
Even in parish, if there's a travel ball team,
If they're from out the parish and come in, they have to pay more than if they're a parish,
But that's why I asked, is that for all parks?
all parks.
Yeah, the ordinance says any parish-owned athletic field. Athletic field.
Ms. Barr, Kim, can you show what we have in Diamond, please?
Well, how is that relevant to this, though, Mr. LaFrance?
Because I can't see anybody trying to pay for a park to use Diamond Park.
Mr. LaFrance, I'd be happy to come down and meet with you at Diamond Park, and we can address your concerns.
Well, we're gonna drop the concerns right here. Take a look at this.
I'm sorry, somebody removed the thumb drive.
Okay.
that where the rocks were taken from?
Go to the next slide.
Water polo, huh?
Could you go back? Could you go back, Kim? Go to the next.
I know, it only goes one way, it doesn't go backwards.
Yeah. Take a look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Can you go, that's about 2 foot of water. Could you go to the next?
That part.
Could you go to the next?
Yes,
That's the lights that's on the ground. Could you go to the next? That's our backup, what you call it, backstop?
Backstop.
The backstop is lower than the ground level. It holds in mud and it holds in water. Could you go to the next one? Do you see what we have, Dr. Gouy?
I see, it's horrible.
Okay. Could we go to the next? Next.
That's the last one.
Okay, thank you. Now, again, do you expect for people to pay to rent this part?
No, I don't think anyone would ask to rent that.
Okay, so that's why I was asking that question. Now, I have received 20,000 from ConocoPhillips, 20,000 from L&G, but however, it's not enough to fix this. So, I guess at the next council meeting, within the next month, I will have a proposal for us to try to upgrade that facility in Diamond. Knowing that we spending $7 million in a different project in this parish. But yet this is some things that we have to deal with. And I did supported that the millage for recreation. Hopefully that some of that money, if it do pass, that it will probably help our park in Diamond.
Ms. Newberry?
Yes, if this passes, are we going to have someone, have y'all talked about having someone assign to these rentals? How are we going to monitor them? What is y'all game plan if this passes, the recreation?
The recreation department's gonna have to keep a schedule of who's renting the fields and when, and they're gonna make sure that we collect payment before they use the fields.
Is there enough people on staff to do that? Because, I mean, evidently, we can't keep the bathrooms and recreation centers clean.
Mrs. Elder's gonna be able to handle that.
Thank you.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes, I don't think the workers on the East Bank at the park will be able to take care of that efficiently and effectively, because every time we tell them they cut the grass throughout the area on the whole East Bank, and they also go cut grass on the West Bank. So I don't know, will it give them time to take care of the buildings on the park? But I do appreciate Mr. Roussel coming on and cutting the trees. The trees are still down, but they're in the pile to be picked up in the park. And we need some other stuff Mr. Epley is looking into. But the restroom and stuff, I don't think they can keep an effective job of it, because they're all assigned in cutting grass. No one is assigned to stay at the park. They cut grass and they're global. I saw them at the courthouse this week cutting grass. Then I saw them last week up the road. Then 2 days out, they was shooting across the river. You know?
You're correct, sir. We don't have enough personnel in the recreation department to do everything that needs to be done.
Right.
And for them to maintain the 40-plus properties that they cut grass at around the parish.
No way. That's right. That's what I'm saying. There's no way it's happening.
Mr. Alborough?
I'm just a little confused, because what this ordinance is trying to do is we have people using the facilities for free. So the first thing it'll do is help reduce that, And then two, it will give us some funds to help pay to clean the restrooms or supplies necessary for the restroom. If this ordinance doesn't pass, they can continue just to go out to these ball fields, make a mess, leave the trash, and there's nothing we can do.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Yeah, Mr. LaFrance said it's thing about $7 million, $6 million recreation being spent.
7, huh?
I don't know. That's up this way?
In my way.
Not across the
Is
river.
it your way?
No, maybe Baconovich down there.
No, money came from down there, but. Mr. Black? Mr. Black?
That was voted twice, 9-0 by the previous council, 9-0 to build 2 phenomenal facilities for the people of the parish. 9-0, twice.
Mr. LaFrance?
I was at that meeting, and I remember when Miss Audrey said, "In the spirit of cooperation." That's exactly her words. And I don't see much cooperation when you look at Diamond Park. I don't see how on God's green earth you could spend $7 million in one place and take a look and see what my children have to play in. I'm sorry for it. Now, if you wanna, in the spirit of cooperation, and give me a couple of million for us down the road, that would be good. We'll take it. In the spirit of cooperation.
Any other questions from the council, administration, the audience?
Wyona Kirkland, Bell Chase. I would like for each council member to tell me what parks are in your district. I know, John, you have Davent Park, correct?
Correct.
Black, what park do you have?
Cypress, I believe, is the only one currently in District 2. As far as parks and playgrounds go, yeah, it's just Cypress.
Arboro, what you have?
Second largest district, 0.
What you have, Gouy? Conovich, what you have?
Roger Halfin Park, Leroy Harvey Park, and if you want to say Fort Jackson, but I cut the grass there.
Okay, say those parks again. I know Fort Jack.
Roger Halfin, Leroy Harvey.
Okay. Newberry, what you have?
None.
Mr.
LaFrance, you have
That part
Diamond.
true? Jesuit Bennett not your part? Sure.
It
Don-
doesn't belong to me, it's in the district I represent.
Yeah.
You have
Ironton,
Diamond.
Ironton,
And
and
Diamond.
Diamond.
Blank, what you have?
The Jesuit Bin Park and
Tell me what's going on with the Jesuit Bend Park.
There's
Update me.
there's a community-led effort to clean it up.
Okay. I pay real estate taxes. I have a whole list of fees, and there's recreation on there. So those fees for real estate should be upkeep in these parks also. And what we just saw is deplorable in that Diamond Park. And it should be fixed with our tax. We already paying taxes for some of these things to be done. And I'm gonna say to these viewers out here, you need to vote no for these taxes and millages until we do what we supposed to be doing with the monies that we have. Because all of this money that's coming up, right now, we got parks, and we want to put fees on recreation for children to travel. This parish does not do as well as Jefferson Parish, as St. Tammany Parish, as Orleans Parish, and then we're going to put a fee for children to play in a park where their parents are already paying taxes. And it's not even up to standards to what we see in Jefferson Parish, what we see in St. Tammany Parish. And then, and another thing, I listen to the pumps. Those pumps been out since Katrina. We're not doing what we need to be doing with the money that we have and have had.
Mr. Blink?
Thank you.
Ms. Kirkland, there's nothing I can tell you right now that's
No, I'm not, it's
gonna
not,
make you happy.
I'm just letting this be addressed to everyone.
Sure.
And for the views, the people out there to see.
But, I mean,
We want these parks for our children to walk in. I might say, well, little girls, let's get together and we're gonna do a flag team today and just go out on a Sunday. I gotta notify somebody for, to rent this park to do that. I'm in this parish.
this is not my legislation.
I'm just saying, neighborhood parks should be for neighborhood children.
They are for neighborhood children, ma'am. The purpose of this legislation is to charge organized baseball teams.
That's fine, I understand
Organized
that.
sports teams.
But you guys need
If
to
you
get
want to
these.
if you want to get the girls together and go play flag football at the park, that's no
I
problem at all.
understand, but we need to get these parks together before we can offer fees. We're trying to get money and we don't have them together.
You're absolutely right.
You
we
know?
do.
And that's not fair
You know
to
when I
ask
was
people to
notified,
pay.
you know when I was notified about the problems at Diamond Park?
Today?
Today.
Oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Black?
Yeah,
Thank you.
let's talk about the finance of this for a minute, because Cypress Park isn't much better. I can show you emails, photographs that I've dealt with for 6 years about Cypress Park in the deplorable conditions. This administration has done some work to alleviate those when we hired Mr. Henry. But I'm gonna tell you, so we talked about comparison to Jefferson Parish and St. Tammany. And that's why I put this mill up for 2 mills. And I put it specifically for operations and maintenance, so we can use that money. It would double recreation's budget, and then we can use that money to repair these parks and keep them up and make them where they need to be. We pay 68, 69 mills in this parish. Jefferson Parish is well over 100. St. Tammany's like 150. And there's a lot more people in St. Tammany, like 500,000. They have dedicated millages dedicated specifically for recreation. We, as Mr. Lapine said yesterday, received $42 million in oil and gas revenues in 2011. We received $7 million this year. We don't have the money. We don't have the money anymore. We used to be able to rely on oil and gas revenue to repair all these parks. But I have to stand beside the administration on this. They just don't have the funding or the resources to keep all of these up. And it's not just in Mr. LaFrance's district. It's in everybody's district. Every park that everybody named here is deplorable, in my opinion.
Mr. Blink?
Sure. I mean, I think there's something else that hasn't been said too, which is, I mean, the world is becoming increasingly more complicated. You know, it costs more money to do business. There's more liabilities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so the cost, inflation, whatever else continues to go up, and we've got less money, you know? But I was trying to say that earlier and I had a chance to get it out of yield.
Mr. LaFrance?
Mr. Epperly said he just found out about this park today. I will tell you, Mr. Epperly, 2 years ago when I had the cleanup in Diamond Park, we had Mr. Lapine that came and visited us. And he had a chance to look at that park. And he knew it was deplorable then, because he said it was deplorable. So I did my best to try to raise some money. I asked some people for some money. I was able to get $40,000. I asked Ken Dugas to do up some plans. He projected that it was $100,000. So I'm $60,000 short. So I need $60,000. Now, several meetings ago, Mr. Lapine said it was my job to get that money. Anytime that, because I asked, he said it's my job. Now, I got proposal on here to get some money, and I have 5 votes to get that money. I have 5 votes. I'm letting y'all know.
Mr. LaFrance, what are you referring to?
And let me clear the record. At the cleanup day, I was there cutting grass with you.
Absolutely.
Was I?
Yes.
Yes, sir, I was. And I said what was deplorable was the building that was deplorable. Not the fields, not the grass, not everything. That was okay. That was in good shape. You showing me pictures today, okay? Not one time have I heard from you since and said Diamond Park is in bad condition. You showing me pictures today, it looked like it stormed out there and you went out and took pictures in the rain, okay? I sympathize with you. I was there to help you, and I told you I would try to help you. Now, your next quote is you got 5 votes, and I know what you're alluding to, and you want to bring it on, okay? That's what I can tell you.
Oh, well, Mr. Lupine, you want to bring it on? Did you tell any one of these council members that if they support that ordinance, that they won't do anything in their park and in their
Name one.
Did you say that?
Name one council member. I said that too.
That's
Name
the
one.
council member.
Name one.
One of them told me that.
Name one, Mr. LaFrance.
Now, who came up? Who told me that?
Who told you that? If you accuse them, tell them who.
Oh, no, I'm not going to volunteer their name.
It was me.
Told me. I told you that, Richie.
Told me that.
Yeah.
Boom.
Wow.
Bye, y'all.
Didn't vote for it, Richie.
I don't think it's productive, but you did tell me that.
I did tell you that.
Yes, indeed.
Well,
I did.
You want to go?
can I?
Reverend,
Because
Reverend.
this is, this is just too stank for me. I just want to bring up, something is happening with recreation. Because Mr. LaFrance, whether he went out and took the pictures in the rain or not, we should have somebody in the house to know these things are going on. We should have known those lights was on the ground. Mr. LaFrance, if the recreation department was doing what it always have done in the past, they knew what's happening with every park. I'm willing to bet.
Call a question.
If that was a park in Bell Chase, you'd have knew about it. We have to begin.
No, sir.
Thing.
No.
Yeah, I'm just gonna call it like I see it.
I gotta go there, because I know I got complaints from Bell Chase, they didn't have lights, they got them portable lights, so I can't say it's just,
We got
But-
fields that hold
Condition of
water.
that park,
No, sir.
condition
No,
of
sir.
that
This is
park,
enough. Call a
we should have people in
Mr.
recreation, should be able to
Reverend-
know what's going on in every park. We should
Reverend
have a
Edwards,
fire show.
he called a question, machines are open. Mr. Bartholomew? Passes 7-1.
And Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I want y'all to know while we was cutting grass in Diamond, I had my personal lawnmower out there. A $10,000 Kubota.
Number 10, approval of the minutes from the April 8th, 2021 regular meeting.
Do I have an offer?
Second.
I'll offer Ms. Newberry seconds. Machines are open.
Mr. Gui? Oh, never mind.
It passes 8-0.
Number 11, new business. There are no introduction of resolutions where suspension is being sought. B, 11B, District 9 update, Councilmember Konovich.
I know the water and sewage y'all can't do much about because it's Severn Trent, but talked to the vice president today at Severn Trent, because every time it rains, I get 100 phone calls. And I'm getting tired of them. I can't do anything about it, so,
It's part of the infrastructure improvements that we need to invest in, and it's gonna take millions, in order to do what needs to be done throughout the parish.
okay. And then drainage, that's something we can do, because during the rain, I was out there with my own shovel and rake, clearing ditches, digging ditches, and some of them's been on the work request for a long time, and I know had a machine down there today, but I'd like them to finish jobs, because last year started a job, did some of it, then left, and it seems like we never finish a job in one area.
And you are right, we are going to finish that job. Orangewood,
Well, that's one.
that's one. Well, I thought that's the one we're on right now. But
That's the one he's on right now, yes.
right, and we're definitely going to finish. And look, I got a list, Mr. Kindovich, of all the ditches, and we made it a conscious effort to dig one ditch a district as fast as we can. So 1 week, we're going to try to be here, 1 week, we're going to try to be there. So we're going to try to move around, because I got a list of ditches that we need to attend to. And look, I'm asking guys to be patient. I have 3 operators right now, 3 operators, and if you saw my presentation yesterday, we used to have 12 operators. Okay, so we are going to get a ditch dug on somebody's district, and we're gonna try to go to get, I guess, the more bang for our buck. If a ditch is long, it suffices a couple of people. We're gonna try to do that. We're gonna try to evaluate which is important and see who's been here on the longest on the list. So we just ask for your patience, and we're working as fast as we can.
But I've been doing some research, and we could get one of the ditch cutters, there's a piece of equipment we could put on the end of it, and it digs and cuts all the trees and all at once. And, you can't do it by somebody's yard, else it'll be full of mud and all, but
Well,
it looked like it did a pretty good job.
There's all kind of stuff in ditches. That's the problem, We run into liability of hitting something, right?
Thank you. Mr. Blink?
Sure. Is there been any talks or progress on getting local contractors to start sweeping ditches? There are several individuals around the parish or companies that have those capabilities. You don't need to name names, but they're out there, and that they're willing, chomping at the bit almost, same thing with grass, to do that type of work. A lot of local contractors down the road, especially after seeing the out-of-town company doing the grass cutting last year, are very interested. Is there any chance to maybe break that into sections, or to get some local contractors to start doing the ditch work?
We definitely can explore that idea if that's, it's gonna cost at a cost. But if we, look, I can get my guy to look into it and evaluate it and get some people and give us some estimates.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, I'm gonna come back to you guys and say, I need this much money to cut ditches.
Sure. I mean, there may be something left in the budget there. I mean, it seems like there's a civil service backlog unless we can't hire the right kind of people, the qualified people to do this work. So, I mean, is there monies there that may be needed for personnel, but we can't fill the spots?
Well, there are
Fund that?
positions that we intend to try to fill, and look, it's grass cutting, it's solid waste. Solid waste is 16 people down short. That's north and south. So the ferry department, we've talked about that. Those things are just trying to hire people, and we want to try to. We talked about that earlier. Try to advertise. We'll try to advertise and see if somebody gives us a proposal for ditches. And maybe just to sweep and clean. Like I said, I got a list of them here. We made since from last year, and a lot of them in your district too. We're trying to catch up as fast as we can.
Thank you.
District 1 update, Councilmember Bartholomew.
Yes. Mr. President, the next meeting, if possible, whenever you're here, or anybody you assign them to, need some information on a list of the outfall ditches, and if there's anything possible, or when you can take a commitment that you may start doing some of them. The other question is the CEA with the volunteer fire department, where we are with that. The ferry ramps for the Point Ash Ferry, where we are with that. What type of recreation program will we have on the East Bank total? The pumps on the lower East Bank, the status of those pumps, and the status of David Park. That's all I have. Thank you.
E, District 7 update, Councilmember LaFrance.
Just keep on passing, because I'm sick with it. I'm disgusted with the whole shebang.
F will be deferred.
Pitiful.
G, District 6 update.
Defer.
8, discussion on the Scarsdale and Point Lahash ferries and schedule of operations. Councilmember Bartholomew?
Sorry? I don't have any updates.
Do I have a motion?
Includes the updates.
Do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Mr. Black, second by Mr. Blink. Machine's open.
Thank you, Dan.
And let the record show passes 7-0. Council meeting's adjourned at 6:02 PM.